I'll confirm.
Thank you.
We're now live on YouTube.
Right. So firstly, may I remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live via the internet. So welcome to the Stronger and Safer Communities Decision session today, the 21st of September. Well, I'm looking at the screen and I see a full contingent of faces. So, but I think I may have an apology. May I?
Yes, Councillor, Cabinet Member, there's two apologies. Councillor Grew has submitted his apologies and Councillor Hamilton is substituting, and Councillor Flo Nash has submitted her apologies and Councillor Cole is substituting.
Right. Thank you and welcome both of you. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi, David. Any declarations of interest? No, I see nobody madly waving their hands at me, so that's good. Any questions and deputations?
None received, Cabinet.
Absolutely the correct answer, Joseph. Well done. So, the only item on our agenda today, ladies and gents, is the Revenue and Capital Monitoring 2020-21 as at the 31st of July 2020, and Lauren is going to present that report to us. So away you go, Lauren.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Okay, so this is a report for information to give the latest forecasts as at the end of July and also progress against the savings targets. This year, as you can imagine, COVID has had a significant financial impact, so we've split the monitoring presentation so that you can see both the COVID and non-COVID variances. For this portfolio, the overall revenue variance forecast is a favourable 153,000. With an adverse 22,000 included within that from COVID, and a breakdown of that can be seen in Appendix A. As always, the position of this portfolio must be sort of considered within the context of the wider Economy and Infrastructure Directorate. So the position across the Directorate is rather less favourable. So in terms of COVID, we have an adverse variance of 1.489 million, and there's further details of that in Appendix B. That includes a mix of funding requests where we had agreed additional funding pressures which emerged during COVID, which were agreed by the delegated authority of the Director of Resources and Deputy Chief Executive. So those things are not included within that pressure. Those have funding allocated already from the emergency grant. We then also have other avoidable service impacts which are shown as pressures. And then also the benefit from the government's income loss recovery scheme, which we're in the process of submitting the first claim to, which enables us to claim back 75% of our lost income streams, which makes up some of that service impact. Appendix B also shows the various new funding streams that we've received as a result of COVID, most of which we're forecasting we're going to spend in full on new pressures. The sort of wider context across the whole council has been reported to full cabinet. At the moment, we've received an emergency funding grant, which will enable us to cover off the pressure which we're forecasting across the whole council at the moment for this year, but then will still leave us with a future year pressure in terms of reductions to our core funding streams across council tax and business rates. At the moment, that emergency funding is being held corporately because the position is very much still changing. New pressures are emerging, and we're also hearing of new funding as the year goes on. So that funding is being held corporately at the moment. The net impact of those service effects is being shown against each portfolio, which is why you see the pressure against the overall directorate. In terms of the non-COVID position, we also have a pressure against the directorate. That's 1.52 million. The principal reasons for that are not in this portfolio, they're in the Environment and Highways portfolio, and that's something which will now be addressed going into the budget process. So it's become evident some of the budgets are not realistic for the cost of the services, so that will be looked at going into the budget process. And then finally, the report also covers the capital forecast for this portfolio, which at the moment is no variance, so forecasting to spend to the budget of 676,000, and also finally gives an update on the savings targets, which at the moment are green for the next 2 financial years, and then with some red rated savings in the final year of the MTFS 22-23, where plans are still being developed. Okay, so I'll take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Lauren with regards to her report, please? Jean.
Yes, my question, thank you very much, Councillor Rolfe. My question is actually not my question, but Councillor Groom's question, which he submitted to me to ask, and it's relating to the first page of the appendix. And under the housing stock in the bottom table, it notes COVID-19 pressure due to additional temporary accommodation costs. His question is that, given we're in a secure position, is there a possibility of improving our current offering, which, judging by recent articles and contacts that we've had from vulnerable residents, is looking a bit ropey? So is there any possibility of improving our offer? And I'm not necessarily expecting an answer immediately, but that maybe this could be looked at or not. That's his question. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think
Rob.
I'd like to answer that. So
I'll pick that up. Yeah, I mean, clearly we had to respond in an emergency with the situation we've got at the moment. But what we have done is put in a bid for additional funding to look at long-term homelessness support options. You know, the temporary accommodation we're using, we had to source at quite short notice. What we're hoping to do is invest in better accommodation that's more sustainable and more long-term. There has a report did go to Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and Health last week, I think it was, which sets out what that funding bid is, and we've had approval for a portion of it just this week. It was announced. I think there was a press release went out today, actually.
Right.
So.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. I shall share that with Councillor Groom, although I dare say at some point he'll catch up by watching. Thank you.
There's nothing on the television, so you might as well.
Well, I agree with you on that one.
So anybody else got any other questions that they would like to ask with regards to the report? No. I mean, I haven't. I think it clearly about where we are, and I think we all expected what it says, to be honest. You know, we're in a very difficult position across the entire council with COVID and having to juggle all of the things that we're doing. I take at least a little bit of heart from the fact that at the moment we're only looking at savings targets that are read in the final year of the programme, so at least that's something positive. But I think, to be honest, we are where we are, and we have to sort of keep hoping that people can keep juggling everything around and making sure that we're all okay. So so unless anybody's got any other is now waving at me. Hello, Glyn.
I just say, is it not very difficult to forecast this in the present climate, though? Because you're forecasting it's green rated, and next year's green rated, and then it's red rated, but we don't know how things are going to pan out, do we? So really, none of it is really accurate, really, at all. I wouldn't have thought. We just don't know where we're going with it. So I know you have to put that in, but we don't know really what's going to happen, do we, with what's going on?
No, I think you're absolutely right. You know, if I could predict what was going to happen with this pandemic, I'd not be working with the council, I don't think. So we're sort of, at the moment, we're taking an overarching assumption, which is in all our COVID forecasts, that we have sort of a gradual recovery up to the end of December. Then we're sort of into a new normal for January. Clearly, if we get a second spike, a second lockdown, something of that order, then that's going to change this year's position. Yeah. What we're also doing heading into the budget process is a kind of sensitivity analysis piece of work. So we're basically going to be working up scenarios for if that recovery comes sort of 3, 6 and 9 months later, so we can then see what that does to the figures. But yes, we're monitoring this very closely because it is an ever-changing picture really, and it's difficult to forecast.
Thanks. That's what I thought when I looked at it. Really, was I don't really know how we can forecast it that clearly because we just don't know, do we? We just don't know how things are going to work out. So, okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Or are we not? I don't think we're going to beat Councillor Middleton's record of the shortest decision-making session. I still can't believe he holds that. That doesn't seem right to me at all. Anyway, so I'm being asked
Need to reduce his salary if it's that short.
Okay, so I'm being asked to consider and endorse the 2020-21 revenue and capital financial monitoring forecast as at the 31st of July 2020, and consider the portfolio's progress against the latest 3-year savings targets in the medium-term financial strategy as at the 31st of July 2020. So you can take it that I did that, that I think, just double check, yeah, brings us to the end of the meeting. So whilst it was lovely to see you, it was very brief, and I'll see you all at full council.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, ladies and
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Bye.